Then you get to the other point, though, is that if the gas becomes more expensive, because either it's not being drilled or indeed it's more expensive to bring from the west coast to the east coast, isn't that counterproductive to Australia's competitiveness when you've got a president in the United States right now who's got a policy of drill, baby, drill and wants more projects and cheaper energy in America as compared with what it would be here in Australia?
Yeah, and Ross, that's the thesis of my speech, which is energy is essential to economic prosperity. And in a country like Australia, similar to the US, you're going to need a wide range of energy sources to meet the needs of consumers, households, and businesses that want to grow. The US is a great example of an economy that is developing all sources of energy. It's got oil, it's got natural gas, it's got solar, it's got wind, it's got nuclear. You know, everything is in the mix, and Drill Baby Drill does two things. One, it's very clear support for oil and gas, but two, it's also a message saying that energy, more energy in the market keeps prices down, which enables other economic growth. And that, I think, is the most important message that we can all take away from the Drill Baby Drill headline.
OK, so then you've got a federal government that has just shelved, the Prime Minister has shelved the nature positive legislation, which would have added potentially another layer of bureaucracy. Even though the Environment Minister, Tanya Plibersek, says it would reduce bureaucracy, the reality is it would be another agency to have to deal with to be able to get gas projects up and operational. So, for example, your North West Shelf extension project has taken 6 years to get approvals. But the problem is we don't have 6 years to wait before these gas shortfalls, especially on the east coast of Australia, before they occur.
No, we don't, and it really does make the head spin. So North West Shelf is a facility that's been producing domestic gas since 1984, producing LNG since 1989. The existing environmental approval is till 2030, and we went to the government and said, look, we just want to increase it to 2070. We're not changing anything in our footprint. We're staying in the same fence line. It's the same equipment that we've been using for decades. It's taken 6 years for the state government to give us approval. And now we also have to get Commonwealth government approval. So it just makes your head spin that you've got two independent regulatory agencies making a decision on the same question, which is just extending the life of something that's already been running for 30 years. It's crazy.
So you, of course, have a choice as to where you invest capital. You and I have talked about this a lot. You have now operations in Africa. You have operations, obviously, in Western Australia. You've got it in the Gulf of Mexico. You've got it in the United States. You go where you get best bang for your shareholders' dollar and where the resource sits. That's a big thing for Australian shareholders, but even for the Australian government to try and get its head around, surely.
When we're thinking about where to make our next investment, we look at a number of factors. First and foremost, we look at, is the resource there? We don't have the luxury of building wherever we want. We have to go find the oil and gas fields and those opportunities. Second thing we look for is, what's the investment climate? And that goes to, does the country really want our investment, want us investing in these commodities? What's the tax structure? What's the wage structure? What's the supply chain cost? What's the energy cost? So those are all factors that we look at. Look, we're comfortable and, we're a proud Australian company. We've made a decision to invest in developing the Scarborough field. We would love to be able to invest and develop the Browse fields, again, and continue to supply gas to our customers here, particularly in Western Australia, and then also our LNG customers. And you look at the US and you'd say, well, actually the US is probably ahead on a number of those metrics. Tax rates lower, employment model is a bit more affordable, supply chain is cheaper, you've got a big contractor community, so the US is very competitive. And again, it was another point in the speech I made, is that we're in a globally competitive world. Australia has been very successful in the past, but we need to always be upping our game and improving our performance to make sure we stay competitive.
Meg O'Neill, it's always great to chat to you, and many thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Ross.